Hi everyone. I've been thinking about my channel a little bit and trying to figure out what would make people want to watch my videos, my vlogs, and the other things that I intend to do, and what might get people to be more interested in it, and what I really wanted to share with, I guess, the world, whoever wants to see it anyways. And the thing that I really want to share is kind of my journey as a sister who is a mom. And if you've seen some of my other vlogs, you know that my sister Savannah lives with me. And I wanted to kind of tell that story and show more of, of what that is for me. So I was recently asked to make a submission to a mom blog about that, and so I wrote it down. I'm going to read it, but I also want to add in some additional pieces that only you will get, because the blog, I wanted it to be, a condensed version, but there's some interesting bits that I didn't put in just for the sake of not having it be too long. So I have it written down, and I'm affectionately calling this Savannah Chapter 1 because this primarily talks about when she was born. So without further jibber jabber, I'll just start right in, and forgive me if I'm looking down a lot, because like I said, I am reading it. So I'll probably look up more when I'm elaborating on some of the story. November 2005, at almost 20 years old, I got a call that changed my life forever. And it really did. It wasn't from an OBGYN, and I wasn't going to become a mom. It was from my dad. I was going to be a big sister. I immediately burst into tears. I was so excited, my emotions got the better of me for nearly an hour. And this is something I remember very, very distinctly. I remember the time of year. I remember, obviously I don't remember the exact day, but I know it was in November. And I remember my dad telling me, we didn't think it could be possible. One thing that I didn't include in my story is that my stepmom, who was pregnant with my sister, she had had her tubes tied. And I originally thought that was right after she had her second child, who at the time, was my stepbrother. But I've since learned that it was a little bit later than that. So I'm thinking that at the time it had been 10 to 15 years after she had had her tubes tied. So Savannah is a miracle that she's here, and we do know that she is a blessing from God. She is meant to be here, and there's no medical way that we can explain her, that they can't. So anyways, moving on. I was crying. I had always wanted to be a big sister. Always. I had probably spent about 15 of my 19 birthday wishes on this very subject. And that is true. I really did wish to be a sister, and never really thought that it would happen, because my dad was kind of in and out of relationships, and my mom had been single since my dad left us when I was 2. So she wasn't the kind of person to be messing around with someone without being married. So why I wished for it and how it came to be is just all really a miracle. Immediately I felt a deep connection to this unborn child, which I cannot explain. I did what any new sibling would do. I went out and bought a crib, a changing table, stroller, clothes, and cases of diapers. I also bought things for my stepmom to wear, like maternity clothes, especially for summer, because I knew she was going to be super hot, and they were living in Kentucky at the time, and I didn't want her to be uncomfortable. I wanted her to be safe and comfortable and keeping that little baby safe. So I wrote, what? That's not the typical sibling response? I gifted it all to my dad and stepmom, and then I moved 2 states away from school so I could live with them during the summer of 2006. I wanted to be there when she was born. Moving ahead to July 18th. The 18th rolled around, and I prepared by throwing my clothes in the washer so that when the 20th, which was her my stepmom's scheduled C-section day, came, I would be in something nice or whatever. And I remember pretty distinctly, I had asked my brother, or my stepbrother, do you want me to put any of your stuff in there as well? And he had things too. So we kind of were like in a spot where we both were sort of at the last of our clean clothes, and we had like one more outfit for the next day. And so, 2 days we had to get ready. And so I threw the stuff in at the end of the night on the 18th. The morning of the 19th, I was awoken by my dad with a brief, "It's time." Even with all the excitement building, it did take me at least 30 seconds to register the meaning of this. And again, this is something I remember very vividly. I was laying in bed. I remember it wasn't real early in the morning. It was probably around 9 or something. So I was kind of sleeping in, and the sun was streaming through the room. I was in what would be my sister's nursery after a little while, because I was staying with them, and of course she wouldn't need it right away. And so it was kind of bright in there. And so when my dad woke me up and just kind of shook me and said, "It's time," and I kind of laid there groggily for about 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, and then I realized, and I remember it was that literal jumping out of bed kind of thing that you see like in movies or like cartoons or something. It was like that, and just excitement, really. But as I said, our clothes, my brother and I, our clothes were in the washing machine, wet. I was going to dry them, the 19th. And so we both put on what was our last clean t-shirts. For me, it was a t-shirt, a black t-shirt from the restaurant Chili's that I had just bought for from the Goodwill or Salvation Army or something. Just to hang out in around the house. And my brother, my stepbrother, this was actually Hooters. And we have the pictures to prove this. We both have pictures of us holding our brand new baby sister in these t-shirts. And yeah, it's something that's funny to me, because I have no idea what I intended to wear, but I remember very vividly what I ended up wearing because of the timing of everything. So we got dressed, and I followed them to the hospital in my own car. And we really only had to wait a little while, because she was born around 12:30, 12:40. And once they took my stepmom back into the operating room, because she still did do the C-section instead of a VBAC, it was, it's fast. It's really fast. So we didn't wait long. There was this hallway that was kind of in between the delivery room and the nursery, and I was waiting there, and then they rolled this plastic cube by, and I said, "Is that the beach baby?" And it was. And I got to see my sister for the very first time. That was actually before her mom actually got to see her, because she was, I think they put her completely out. So my dad had seen her. He was in the operating room, and he followed very quickly after to see her and look at her and just be in the nursery with her since my stepmom was still under, I think. And then, so I was probably, I think, about the second person to see her. I was waiting in the waiting room with our grandmother, and so we both saw her basically at the same time. Back to the story here. I honestly didn't think she looked like any of us, and I wasn't thinking she's the cutest baby I'd ever seen, but that didn't matter because I loved her. Oh, this was so cool. I'm just trying to think of some stuff that in the hospital after her mom was in the like recovery room after surgery. They brought her in to see her mom, and I think I was holding her while she was kind of waking up, you know, still groggy from the anesthesia or whatever. And she just let out this wail, and I mean, all of us were like, she just said her first word because it sounded exactly like she was going, "Mom!" And it was just straight up, it was one syllable kind of whine, and you know, we all just kind of laughed about that, but it really did sound like that to us. So a week after, I was headed to the doctor's with Savannah and her mom for their first checkup, which, you know, is pretty customary. Savannah was fine, but her mom wasn't. In fact, they told us to go straight to the hospital. They told us that her incision was infected, but they didn't really indicate to us like how bad, but they were like very adamant that we didn't do anything else that day, that we went straight to the hospital. They were calling them to let them know we were coming, and so, you know, I was driving my stepmom around in Savannah, and we went there, and once we got to where they admit you, they told us that they thought at the just the doctor's office that she might have gangrene, which, if you know anything about that, I mean, people lose limbs, they lose their life sometimes if they don't get that taken care of like right away. So it was a very, very serious infection. And they admitted her, and I remember her asking, you know, can I keep my baby here with me? You know, she's only a week old. I need to be able to breastfeed her. I need to be able to bond with her. And they said, you know, you can have her in the room with you. We'll provide, you know, the little baby thing, but they wouldn't do like a bracelet or anything like they do when they're first born, because you know, she wasn't firstborn and she wasn't being admitted herself. So they recommended that she not be at the hospital like when her mom was sleeping and things like that. So she really couldn't stay there for her safety anyways. So her mom was admitted, and I became responsible for Savannah. It's what I call the beginning of the end, because honestly, my dad should have been the one to step up, but sadly, most of us could have expected it. My dad has never fully embraced parenting or adult responsibility. I remember the first late night feeding. I was so tired, but afraid I wouldn't hear her small cry, so I set an alarm so I could get up and like make her a bottle. I remember setting it for like really, really quiet, which I couldn't hear her cry, but I could hear this quiet alarm. I don't know. I didn't want to wake her up because I just kind of wanted to have a bottle ready to go when she did wake up. So I remember setting it for earlier than I thought she would wake up. And I had her little bassinet next to me in her and I's room in her nursery, instead of, you know, being in my dad's room with him. And I couldn't sleep. I kind of dozed, but I was so nervous, so excited. It wasn't necessary to have the alarm. Every morning, I feed and change her and drive us both to the hospital so she could be with her mom and bond. And it was a week, and I kind of didn't realize that I was bonding with her too. At the end of the week, all went as might be expected. Her mom was re-released from the hospital and came home and resumed normal life. Savannah was being taken care of by her mom the majority of the time. Of course, we all helped. My dad helped some. I helped some. Even my stepbrother, I think, did a little bit. He wasn't real ready for it, but I know that he tried, and he was getting used to the idea of being not the baby anymore. And I was holding and loving her as much as I could because I knew I was going to have to go back to college. And like I said, she was born in end of July. School starts usually end of August, beginning of September. So I had to be back. From the moment she was born, really from the moment I knew she was going to be born, I felt like she was mine. I couldn't really say it to other people, and I didn't really understand why. You can't really go around saying someone else's child is yours. Most mothers, I think, would file restraining orders and call you crazy. It was a very strange feeling to have, thinking that, and I couldn't voice it to anyone because her family is family's who you would tell kind of your secrets a lot of times. And it was her family too. And I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable with me being with her, or, because I wasn't going to take her or steal her away or anything like that. I loved her. And like I said, I bought all these things for her. There was a connection that I had with her. And it was probably a lot to do with the fact that I just always wanted a sister, especially a sister. I always wanted to be a big sister, but I especially wanted to be a big sister of a little sister, as opposed to being a little brother. And so I just kind of kept that to myself. But fast forward 4.5 years, and there had been a divorce. A lot of medical problems, a lot of moves, and a lot of other things that were going on. And life for Savannah was in a very unstable place. By this time, her and my mom, both her and her mom and I all lived in the same town now. So I saw her very often, and I also was out of town a lot because my grandparents had a bed and breakfast at the time, and I was helping to run that too. So she would come to visit me the year that she turned 5. So just before she turned 5, she was down with me a lot at the bed and breakfast, visiting with her dad, who was in that location because that was his family, or our family, I should say. And then her mom lived closer to her family after the divorce. Life for Savannah was very unstable, but she was still my baby sister, and I was hurting for her. I was hurting a lot. I didn't know how to help because I saw that her mom was trying really hard, and I saw that her mom was struggling really badly. And when it's your family, and there's, especially when there's an innocent child involved, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to help. And I was in that place, and I just remember praying a lot, crying out to God. I remember one day I was just like on my face on the floor, just sobbing, God, please intervene in the situation because I knew that her mom was in a bad spot, and as a result, Savannah was really in a bad spot. And I was just really upset by that, and I didn't know what I could do. I made sure that her mom knew if she needed me, I would help. I talked to her on the phone a lot when I was out of town, and shortly after her 5th birthday, so she was 4.5, almost 5, when she came to stay with me at the bed and breakfast for a while. But shortly after her 5th birthday, Savannah came to live with me. It's a special day, one that I consider my own private Mother's Day. And there's really 2 reasons for that. One is obviously I don't want to take away from Mother's Day because she has a mom. She knows her mom. She sees her mom. She loves her mom. And I can't take the place of her mom. So for me, Mother's Day is kind of weird because I am very much her mom now. In just a second, you'll understand why. But her mom is still her mom as well. And so we've never truly addressed this, but Savannah usually will work with family and, get a card for both of us and stuff. But to me, my Mother's Day is in August when she came to live with me. And it's kind of something I just celebrate quietly by myself usually, like internally. Or I might share it with close friends that this is the day, that Savannah came to live with me, and the day that really changed both of our lives. But I don't voice that to her because I don't want her to have any bad feelings about what's gone on, or, her to think that I'm trying to replace anybody, because I don't want to do that. I became her legal guardian about a month later. That was in September. And she's been living with me for almost 7 years now. She knows and loves both her parents, but she also knows she has a third parent, one she calls Sissy. And I pray every day that I will be as much as she needs and give her all the love a mother does. I know now why God allowed us to bond so closely when she was little. I understand why she always felt like mine. She is mine. Thank you, God. So, yeah, that's Savannah chapter 1. There's a lot I grazed over between her birth in the first couple months and from the time that she moved in with me, and a lot of that I don't feel comfortable sharing because it's not really part of my story so much. But if you're interested in hearing parts of it, or what happened next, and how life has been for us both since she moved in with us, or with me, I say us because we do live with my mom, who is not her mom, and she really helps us out a lot to help us keep a roof over our head, and just is a big part of our family. So anyways, yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and if you do, please like it, subscribe to my channel, comment what you liked, what you didn't like, and hopefully I'll get some more videos up, and this channel will do something. Alright, thanks guys, bye.